They thought they had found an easy victim, but within seconds, one of them was screaming in pain, another was sprawled on the ground, and the third stood frozen with a knife at his own throat. "You picked the wrong target," a cold voice echoed, and that's when they realized the real fear was only just beginning. But let's start from the very beginning. Oklahoma, one of those small towns where life moves slowly. There's no metropolitan rush, no big scandals, no major crimes. During the day, people stroll peacefully down the streets, old folks gather at cafes to discuss the news, and teenagers ride their bikes through the modest neighborhoods. It felt like a place frozen in time. But even in the quietest corners of the world, darkness finds a way in. In recent months, the town's streets had begun to change. Not suddenly, not drastically, but little by little. At night, whispers and laughter echoed from the alleys, and short news reports mentioned strange attacks. None of them were serious enough to warrant a full police investigation, but the townspeople were starting to notice. Someone was hunting. Trevor, Jaden, and Blake, 3 young men who felt suffocated by these streets. They weren't just troublemakers. They were thrill seekers in a world where nothing scared them. The problem wasn't that they attacked people, it was that they did it for the spectacle. For them, it was fun. Every night was a hunt. The perfect victims were lone pedestrians, those who wouldn't fight back, the elderly, skinny college students, teenagers lost in their phones. They approached slowly, savoring the moment of power. Their phones were always ready, capturing every humiliating second, because what was the point of their victim's fear if no one got to see it? Trevor was the first to realize they could make money from it. Subscribers eagerly watched their videos. Over time, it became a competition. Who could come up with the most creative content? Who could scare someone the most? Who could make a person cry on camera? They laughed, liking their own videos, never thinking that one night they'd choose the wrong target. The bus stop was empty. The night promised to be dull until they saw him. A tall, lanky man stood beneath the streetlight, slightly hunched, eyes cast downward. At first glance, just another exhausted guy in a hoodie, probably after a long day. He didn't look aggressive. He didn't look dangerous. He looked easy. "Another nerd," Trevor smirked, pulling out his phone. "Won't even fight back." The boys moved toward him, slowing just a step away, exchanging glances. Blake chuckled and was the first to shove the man's shoulder. Silence. No reaction. Again. Harder. Still nothing. Jaden frowned. This wasn't how their usual victims reacted. Most either tried to defend themselves or bolted immediately. But this guy stood still, like a stone statue. "Hey, you deaf or something?" Trevor shoved him harder. Nothing. Not a single muscle twitched in the stranger's face, as if he simply didn't exist. "Looks like he's frozen." Blake grinned and, grabbing the hood, yanked it back. And that was their first mistake. When the hood fell, time seemed to freeze. Beneath it was a face that did not belong to an ordinary man. It was marked by battles not their own, etched with the kind of pain that never fades. A scar ran from his temple to his jawline, another, thin but deep, split through his brow. These scars were not accidents. They were a story written in blood and violence. But that wasn't the most unsettling part. It wasn't the scars. It wasn't the deep crease on his forehead. It wasn't the rough, unshaven jaw. It was the eyes. They looked at them with nothing. No fear, no irritation, no anger. There wasn't even a flicker of panic or weakness, the things they were used to seeing in their victims. These were the eyes of a man who had already lived in the dark. "You picked the wrong target." He said it calmly, without threat, without emotion. And in that second, the world shattered. Blake screamed. Just moments ago, he had felt like the hunter. Now, he was the prey. The man grabbed his arm, tight, bone-crushing, and twisted it with such force that the joints groaned, as if ready to tear apart. Blake howled, collapsing to his knees. This wasn't just a hold, it was retribution. Trevor reacted on instinct. He lunged forward like a panther, but the stranger was already moving. It all happened in a split second. A roll, a sharp elbow strike to the temple, a dull crack of bone, and Trevor crashed to the ground. Jaden wasn't an idiot. He knew the fight was lost. But when fear presses down on you, instinct takes over. His hand found the knife. Fingers tightened around the grip. Adrenaline burned through his veins. The blade gleamed under the streetlight. But before he could act, his wrist was locked in an iron grip. A yank, a sickening pop of joints, and the knife was now pressed against his own throat. "Do you like fear?" The man's voice was quiet, steady, like a blade gliding across skin. "Let me teach you what it really means." Fear is a strange thing. It doesn't strike all at once. First comes confusion, then shock, then realization, and after that, there's only emptiness, where you are no longer the master of your own fate. The next few hours were pure hell for the three of them. But he didn't kill them. No, he did something worse. He took their arrogance. He broke their minds. He made them feel every second of it. "You liked filming people's humiliation, Jaden?" The voice was quiet, but there was something terrifying in it, like an icy wind cutting through to the bone. Jaden lay on the ground. His entire world had shrunk to a single screen, the screen of his own phone, now held in someone else's hand. The camera was pointed straight at his face. "Now I'll record you begging me for mercy." He tried to turn away, but a hand gripped his hair, forcing him to stare into the lens. "Go on, say something. You like giving orders, don't you? Hey man, look over here. That's what you used to say, right? Well, come on, say something." Jaden clenched his lips, trying to hold on. And then the beating began. Not all at once. Slowly. First, just a light shove. Then, a precise punch to the stomach, controlled, calculated. The kind that wouldn't leave bruises but would knock the air right out of you. Jaden choked. The camera was still on him. He could feel his heart slamming against his ribs, his breath turning shallow, panic eating him from the inside. "Say one word." And Jaden broke. "Please." Trevor had never been afraid of fights. But now he didn't know what to do. He stood face to face with this man, his fists clenched, but his hands were shaking. "You always went after those who couldn't fight back. Now I'm giving you a chance. Go ahead. Attack." The words cracked like a whip. Trevor swallowed hard. He had to make a choice. Charge forward? Throw a punch? But something in this man's eyes froze him in place. That stare was empty. The eyes of someone who didn't just see violence as a fight. To him, it was a tool. Trevor couldn't move. He could only feel the fear seeping into every inch of his body. "Or are you scared?" Trevor wanted to say something. Defend himself. Say it wasn't like that. That he wasn't afraid. But he stayed silent. Because he was afraid. He ran. Without thinking. Without looking back. His heart pounded, breath ragged, his mind screaming one thing. Hide. 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 He dove behind a dumpster, pressing his back against the cold metal. Silence. Maybe he left. Maybe he didn't see him. Blake squeezed his eyes shut, trying not to breathe. He didn't want to die. Footsteps, right behind the dumpster. Slow, steady. Blake felt a cold sweat break across his scalp. Silence. Silence. And then, A hand grabbed him by the collar and yanked him out. Blake screamed, thrashing, but the fingers tightened like a steel vise. "No, no! You're not getting away!" The voice was calm. "Now we play by my rules." The cameras had stopped rolling. The phones lay shattered on the ground. No more likes, no more viewers, no more fun. Only terror remained, and the man who taught them what real fear was. They sat on the filthy asphalt, their backs pressed against the wall of an old building. Three guys who, just yesterday, had felt like kings of the streets. Now, they looked like cornered animals. They were found early in the morning. An elderly woman walking her dog spotted them first. Confused, pale, like ghosts, they sat there, hugging their knees, their eyes empty. "Boys, are you all right?" Her voice trembled with concern. They didn't answer. Later, the police arrived. The officers took one look at them, the dirt-streaked clothes, the scraped faces, the trembling hands, and asked what had happened. "Were you attacked?" Silence. "Did you see someone? Can you describe him?" Dead silence. There was no anger in Trevor's eyes, no thirst for revenge, just emptiness. Jaden didn't even try to move. Blake, who usually never shut up, now bit his lip so hard it bled, just to keep from speaking. They knew. If they said his name, if even one of them dared to speak it, he would come back. And this time, he wouldn't play. The next day, they were gone. No goodbyes, no packing their things. They simply vanished. Someone at the bus station that morning saw three hollow-eyed boys buying tickets to different states. Someone else noticed how they kept glancing over their shoulders, as if expecting him to be right behind them. But he wasn't. He was already gone. The bus rumbled down a lonely highway, carrying him toward another city. The man sat by the window, watching as the first evening lights flickered on the horizon. He didn't look satisfied. He didn't look angry. He just was. At the next stop, someone would get off. Someone new would get on. And maybe, just maybe, one of them would choose the wrong target. And then it would all begin again.